This is in English News Night every weekday at 9 p.m. on DD India.
Hello and welcome. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran and you're watching a special broadcast here on DD India. And I have with me a very special guest, Ambassador Saif Al-Rawahi of Oman, to speak about bilateral, regional and global issues of interest or concern to both Muscat and New Delhi. Ambassador, welcome to DD India.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Welcome, Ambassador. Now, 2020 marks the 50th anniversary of Oman's independence. How has the journey been for Oman in all these 5 decades, Ambassador?
Well, it has been really good under His Majesty's late Sultan Qaboos bin Said. We pray all to God that his soul rest in peace. He played a big role in, taking Oman from nothing to the Oman that you see today.
Right.
For the last 5 decades. He played a big role on that. He changed everything, actually, in Oman. And when we talk about the relations between India and Oman, of course, he played a big role in boosting that relation. But the relation goes back thousands and thousands of years, well before that. And actually, some historians, they trace it up to 5,000 years. As you know that we have also Indian family who migrated to Oman more than 300 years back. Mm-hmm. They became now Omanis, and they have actually contributed to the economy and to our culture as well. So that kind of relation that we share between the two countries, we share everything actually. Even we share the cyclones these days in the Indian Ocean. So that is our relation between India and Oman actually.
And Ambassador, 18 November, by the way, marks the 50th National Day of Oman. So it must be a big moment for Omani government, people and society in particular.
Yes, of course. This is, this day actually, it means a lot to all Omanis actually, because it marked the start of His Majesty's ruling in Oman. And after 50 years, whatever we see in Oman, it is his work.
Absolutely.
And he's shifted Oman from zero to a big name in the arena and in the world. So we actually owe this man quite a lot, all Omanis. And we pray to God that his soul rest in peace, inshallah.
Ambassador, as you correctly mentioned, India and Oman enjoy civilizational links and ties. But coming to the present day, how would you describe the state of play in bilateral ties between Oman and India?
Actually, it has been very well, very good, all the time. Actually, we cannot trace any, ups and downs between India and Oman. Nobody actually remember anything which is not good between the two countries. And that reflects actually that the two nations are connected well.
Absolutely.
To each other.
Ambassador, we've seen a number of high-level visits between Oman and India in the last several years. For instance, Prime Minister Modi traveled to Oman in 2018. We've seen a number of visits from Muscat to New Delhi as well, including the Defence Minister who was in India in February this year. So how would you describe the various facets of the ties, be it economy, trade, people-to-people ties between the two countries?
Yes, I was honored actually to accompany the Honorable Prime Minister during that visit in 2018. It was really a successful visit. He met His Majesty, the late Sultan,
Right.
and the visit went very well actually. The talks between the two leaders took more than 2 hours. Over dinner, and we talked, they talked a lot about the relations. Even His Majesty talked about his childhood when he used to visit India at that time. As you know, that his grandfather was in India, in Mumbai, in 1920, I believe, or 1920s, and he died in Mumbai. Yes. Actually, that was also connected to the relation between the two countries, yes. And the visit went very well. We have signed quite a number of agreements during that visit, and actually contributed, and actually it gave energy to the already existing relations between the two countries. And those agreements, actually, they are now ratified and on progress. But due to what happened after that, the current situation actually slowed those things down a little bit. I hope things will move fast in the coming few months. There are good news coming, and I hope that is going to be over.
Indeed.
Soon.
So can we look forward to many more such visits from Oman to India, for instance, in the next few months?
And definitely there will be visits. There is no, I mean, even our last Minister of Foreign Affairs, he used to visit India quite regularly. I mean, every year he comes to India. That is part of his program.
Right.
So I believe my minister now will do the same in the coming years. And of course he will take care of the relations between the two countries well. And I believe we will see a quite good future for the relationship between the two countries.
Indeed. Ambassador, let's talk a bit, if you will, about economy, trade, investment in particular. Now, would you help our viewers understand the current status of the negotiations on a bilateral investment treaty?
Yeah, we have signed a number of treaties actually, and the economic relations between the two countries, there are quite a number of success stories in this field. If we go back to the beginning of this century, I mean, there was the fertilizer plant, which was in Sur. That was between a joint venture between the two countries by OMIFCO, and that was very successful. And actually, by the way, His Excellency Suresh Prabhu was engineering this. At that time, he was not a minister, but he had, he put a lot of effort to make that project a success. There are also another success story which goes back to 1994. Actually, the Omani banks have financed the vaccine against hepatitis in India, which made really a big story because it reduced the price from 1,800 to 100 rupees only. So that was also another success story between the two countries. There are a number of things now in the current, at the moment between the two countries. There's DOCOM projects. In DOCOM there are Sabasic, which is the acid plant between India and Oman, which is of course between the private sector. It's on the way. There is also a very good residential project in Duqm also called Little India, which is, I think, worth more than 700 million. It is also, I think, on the way now. It's maybe 70% already, finished. in Duqm, Sohar, of course, there is a steel plant by Jindal, and there is a joint venture also project. There are a number of projects actually on right now in Oman. There is about 4,100 companies or joint ventures, Indian companies in Oman. There are also a number of companies here. I think you mentioned also the fund, the state fund.
The sovereign fund.
The sovereign fund.
Because Prime Minister Modi, when he visited Oman in 2018, invited the Omani Sovereign Wealth Fund, the State General Reserve Fund, to have plans for India. So have you made any progress since then?
Yes, actually they have even increased that. It used to be 100 million between the SRGS and the State Bank of India.
Right.
And of course the office of this is in Mumbai. And they have increased it now to 220, another 220 million. There are a number of projects now. They are investing in many projects, including properties and others as well in India. I believe that will now increase, and maybe the Omani government will put more efforts on this to make it successful. And there is a good future on that.
Ambassador, the world is currently facing a crisis in COVID-19. Now, it's taken a toll on the global economy, and Oman and India are not immune from it entirely. But we saw that both countries collaborated, did their own small bit in helping each other. Oman helped repatriate Indian nationals, and India in turn shared pharmaceutical supplies with Oman. India also shared healthcare personnel and caregivers with Oman. So how would you describe the collaboration or cooperation between the two countries in times of crisis in particular?
Absolutely very good at that situation. I mean, we all, I mean, at that moment where you see your friend,
Right.
Friends come at that time.
Absolutely.
And really it showed that our relation between India and Oman really, penetrated well. We had cooperation in many fields actually. In pharmaceuticals, in exchanging, so many things. Actually, India have helped, with doctors also during that period. You have mentioned repatriation also. We have managed to get more than 50,000 Indians from Oman actually during that time. Also, there are now a number of Indians who are, waiting to go back. They have work also in Oman, and they are on this bubble agreement. But unfortunately, because they are limited flights, so they have to wait a little bit, twice a week only.
Ambassador, another challenge in the times of COVID is to have a resilient supply chain. Now, in terms of all the essential commodities that a country requires, a population requires, so in that context, have the two countries been collaborating to have a resilient supply chain? Of
course, at the beginning, actually, the Indian government have helped actually, and I was involved in this, to get 1 million tablets hydrochloroquine.
Right.
And the Indian welcomed it, and they have speeded it up at that time, at the beginning of the pandemic. Of course, followed by many things actually from India, and things sometimes, because of the good relation between the two countries, sometimes embassies, they leave them, you see, they work together, and we don't know that much about it because it goes automatic, without saying.
All right, time for a very short break here on this special broadcast. Keep watching DD India. Don't go anywhere.
Namaste India.
Namaste land.
Marhaban ila al-Hind.
Zari India.
Salam India. Namaste India.
Namaskar Bharata.
Mui
Nous
India.
sommes land.
Nahnu Hunud. India. Ma Hindi Hasti. Mung Hindian.
Salam Hindustan.
We are India.
Welcome back. You're watching a special broadcast here on DD India, and I still have with me my very special guest, the Ambassador of Oman to India, to talk more about India-Oman bilateral ties. Ambassador, defense and security is another important pillar of the bilateral ties. How would you describe defense and security cooperation between Oman and India as they exist today?
To the highest level, actually. We are the only country that have formed 3 exercises with India, 3 military exercises, that is air and military and navy. And we have regular, exercises every year on that field. But of course, due to this current situation, has been postponed. I hope they will resume it very quickly.
Right. And Ambassador, in 2016, Oman and India renewed their MOU on military cooperation, and also a follow-up to the Oman Defense Minister's visit to India in February 2020. So what kind of talks have taken place in the interim to further boost or ramp up defense ties between Oman and India?
Actually, during that visit, during Defense Expo in Lucknow, when His Excellency Said Badr, at that time the Defense Minister, visited India to participate in that exhibition, we have met the Minister of Defense at that time, and we have discussed the usual bilateral relation between the 2 countries, and they have mentioned also those exercises that I have mentioned to you. And of course, there are a number of joint work between the 2 countries militarily, including the anti-piracy in the Indian Ocean and other issues. Also, Oman have given India, to use the facility in Duqm port, and that was, signed in an agreement. And of course, still not yet finished, but because of the construction going on still. But soon I think that will be, they will resume it.
Does Oman, for instance, Ambassador, have concerns about maritime security in its neighborhood and also counter-terror cooperation between Oman and India? So is there scope for information sharing or boosting these ties going forward as well?
I think that's happening already between the 2 countries, and they both share the Indian Oceans, and they, for a long time, they are, cooperating in that field.
Right. Ambassador, the other big pillar of bilateral ties is energy security. Now, Oman is a big, source of oil and gas for India. How would you describe the energy partnership between India and Oman in recent times, especially in the area of renewable energy, because Oman has signed up for the ISA as well, the International Solar Alliance?
That's right. Actually, this is a new scope, actually, when we talk about renewable, but we are also concerned about renewable energy for a long time. And there is a cooperation now, and I hope after signing this agreement, things will move even better, in a better way. I think this scope has got a very good future in the coming few years.
And Prime Minister Modi, when he visited Oman, Ambassador, in 2018, invited the Oman government to actually participate in India's strategic oil reserve. So has there been any progress on that front as well?
That is also on the progress, and there is talks about it before the pandemic, and I hope that talks will continue.
Right. And when we talk about bilateral ties, Ambassador, food security is becoming more important every passing day in terms of agriculture, fertilizers, and so on. How would you describe the cooperation in this sphere between Oman and India?
India has provided food security for us for a long time anyway. And we import rice from India, we import spices from India for hundreds and hundreds of years, I mean. So just to put it in an agreement, it is just that is informal, but it's happening actually, it's happening. But what we have discussed long time when also the minister came here regarding initiating or making a company that takes care of this food security from both countries. And that is what we are working on it right now. We hope that talk will resume in the coming future.
Ambassador, one of the other MOUs signed recently between the two countries was one on science and technology and one on cooperation in outer space. So has there been any progress on these spheres as well?
Yes, they have started talking about it. There was some kind of visits between the two countries, but still I think we need time for that.
And Ambassador, people-to-people ties is seen as the bedrock of any relationship. And in terms of manpower, human resources, India and Oman enjoy very close ties for the last several decades. Talking about Indian workers or professionals in Oman, how do you look at their contribution to Omani society in particular?
The Indian workers played a big role in construction in Oman. I mean, since the Renaissance. Now, you see a number of workers, there are more than 700 already there. But mainly now, they are skilled. We are talking about engineers, we are talking about doctors, nurses, chartered engineers, and others. I mean, mostly skilled people now working in Oman from India. Workers less now, because the work has been done already. And they have contributed. We look at them, they have played a big role in our construction, in our economy as well. So that was the time when we needed them.
His Majesty's government, he has just taken over as the new monarch. So from his perspective, what kind of policy would he like to follow or pursue with India in the near term?
Well, definitely he will continue the late Majesty's legacy, and he mentioned it in his speech. And I think one of his priorities is to boost that relation between Oman and India and to continue that.
And talking about the region as a whole, Ambassador, India and Oman share close ties in the regional fora as well. For instance, the Gulf Cooperation Council, the GCC, or the Arab League, also the Indian Ocean Rim Association. So specifically about these multilateral organizations, the GCC, the Arab League, how would you describe India-Oman ties in the regional sphere as well?
Well, wherever we go in that field, India should be there somewhere. If it's not physical, it is there in the theory. I mean, when we talk about Indian Ocean Rim, of course, we are together. Oman is the main founder of the Indian Ocean Rim and India. And both countries played a big part in the Indian Ocean Rim since the creation of this association in the 90s. And GCC, of course, because GCC for India, I mean, the 6 countries also have got Indian working in the Gulf. There are about 7 million or 8 million there. So also India is there, present, wherever we go. And they have contributed to all GCC countries.
All right, on that optimistic note, Ambassador, thank you so much for making time to be with us on DD India. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Ambassador.
Thank you.
We'll show you a special documentary about Oman, its government and people and society just for you. Keep watching DD India. Don't go anywhere.